This is Scott Lacey with US Biathlon. We just finished a huge testing camp up in Lake Placid at the Olympic Training Center. It was great to work with the labs at MSU, they flew out, to then do 2 main tests. I'll get into those tests later. But I want to use this chance to go over a few key takeaways that me and some of the other men's national team took away from those tests. Treadmill testing and metabolic testing is great, but how do you transfer that to skiing better, to having better technique, to becoming a faster skier? Let's jump into it. We did 2 main tests. We did a full metabolic curve using a metabolic cart on our back. It was great instead of having a bunch of tubes hooked up to a cart. But in this test, we monitored our carbon dioxide output versus our oxygen intake. It was really interesting to compare these and also just see what you can do at your max speed. Max speed on a treadmill is very different than max speed on pavement. A treadmill is very consistent and smooth. On a ski trail or pavement, it is not consistent or smooth, and oftentimes small changes in technique can create big exaggerations in what happens on a treadmill. And this is where I found the second test, which is an efficiency test, the most helpful. In an efficiency test, we stayed at 1 speed, we aimed for the middle of our threshold zone, and we just see what we could do over the course of 5 to 10 minutes to make our metabolic input and output the lowest possible, meaning how efficient can we go that same speed, and how low can we get our heart rate, and how low can we get our oxygen consumption. In that, I found the biggest technique changes and the key takeaways where I can go out and work on them in the real world. Let's see what Jake Brown has to say.
Hi, I'm Jake Brown. We just finished up a couple weeks of training camp in Lake Placid with roller ski testing on treadmill with metabolic cart, VO2 max, and efficiency testing, thanks to the MSU, Montana State University research team. My main takeaways from that test is trying to be a more efficient skier on flatter terrain. I think the treadmill is an excellent tool to be able to work on gliding at really high and consistent speed, and it showed me some things that I can do technically better to be a better skier. So for me, that's being able to glide a little bit better with a bent knee and ankle, and be a little bit more impulsive in my push. And then physiologically, we also got some feedback about where we might be lacking. And for me, I need to improve my anaerobic capacity. So I'm excited to work on that a little bit.
Thanks, Jake. Next up, we have Sean Doherty. In talking with Sean, he thought it would be better to talk about roller skiing in general. How do you convert roller skiing to have that ski feel, that you're out on the snow? How do you take good technique from what the sport we actually do and take it to our summer training? He thinks roller ski treadmills are great for this, but roller ski loops, road skiing, all of it is the same. Let's see what he has to say.
Hi, I'm Sean Doherty, and here's a couple things that I think about when I'm getting on roller skis for the first time here in the spring. One is to keep my feet quiet. Roller skis are kind of clunky, and sometimes I get the tendency to kind of stomp as I place the roller ski on the pavement and as I kind of initiate the push. So I try to think of being smooth, staying quiet with my feet as I put my wheels down. Another is to be aware of my balance. Roller skis are a bit more tippy than on snow, I always feel when I first get on them. So to try to be planted, have good pressure, and ride my ski in a good straight line and not wiggle around and not have my foot kind of teetering, as it were, on the wheel. And then a third thing I try to think about is to, although I don't have a long ski to lean into as I push my weight into my toes and drive, to still try to pretend that ski extends and not flick my toes or do some weird kind of follow-through motions, because that's another habit that I have sought to break in my own skiing. So those are a couple keys that I work with, and maybe they'll help you.
And now we'll have Paul Schromer. But Paul Schromer did everything on a ski erg because he had knee surgery this spring. So one of the most valuable things I found from Paul was talking to him about his hours and hours of ski erging and how he's transferring that to effective skiing. As we know, ski erging is double pulling, transfers directly to V2, to pretty much everything you do with both arms. and he has really mastered that. Let's see what he says.
Hey guys, Paul Schomer with the US Biathlon team here today to tell you about why I love the ski erg so much and also how I maintain good ski technique while I'm on the ski erg. So for me this spring I had knee surgery, so I spent a lot of time on the ski erg because it allowed me to be able to still get in ski specific fitness training while also not having a huge impact on my knee. Now a few things that I like to think about while I'm on the ski erg is how I want to keep good ski technique. And part of the things that, or some of the things that you might do that are bad for ski technique, and I think the big one is not sitting back. When you're on skis, normally you're moving forward and it's a little bit easier for you to get your hips up. So you want to make sure that you're not just skiing, sitting back the whole time. You want to make sure that you're getting up, staying activated, and still catching yourself on your poles. So you want to be up, falling on the poles while keeping your hips forward and not sitting back too much. And I think the other important thing is make sure that you're using your core and you're not just going with your arms like this. So make sure you're really engaging your core and following through so that when you hit the snow and you get back on skis, you're ready to go.
One of the things I really found beneficial about the treadmill testing was really placing myself squarely on top of my ski with my ski going down the track, especially at higher speeds. When I've been skiing most of my life, I've really pushed out to the side, but I really found at high speeds, especially on the treadmill or in big V2, which is one of my big weaknesses I'm working on this summer, really planting that ski going down the track. And then when you load your poles, you pole plant, then you can push off to the side. When you push off, you're again landing on that ski, going straight down the track. You can come back up, load your body, pole plant, push off. I found that is one of the most effective exercises I could do on the treadmill that translated to much faster skiing on the trail. In addition to really loading your weight onto your toes, onto the ball of your foot. That for me was a huge cue to getting all of my weight forward, really driving that knee. You can see this angle. I'm not just bending the ankle, I'm just weighting the ball of the foot and pushing from the center of the roller ski, or if you're on snow, from the center of the ski. So those are my favorite technique cues I took away from the treadmill. The other thing I took away from the metabolic cart testing was to really just stay in the zone that you're trying to stay in. It's real easy to want to go harder, especially if you're on a group setting or you're on a treadmill where you're trying to stay stable, all of those things. But really just focus on staying in the middle of that zone. And often that means a little bit lower than you think. Doing a big long OD in L1 means staying in L1 for it to not just be exhausting. Or if you're doing intervals, really try and get up in the middle of threshold. You don't need to be pushing into race pace or L4. Or if you're doing L4, it doesn't mean you need to be blowing out into L5. So I really liked the treadmill testing and the metabolic cart, but those are the things I'm taking away with me to then become a faster skier. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found a few things you might take away this summer to work on with roller skiing. Thanks to the MSU lab, thanks to the men's national team for their cues. Hope you have a great summer. See you on the trails.